What is going on, guys? Dayton aka DrAutoflower back at you inside the grow room. So we got another question and answer video for you guys. My last video was like a mix of a garden update and question and answers. I kind of figured what was going to happen with it. Anything to do with guards now, they're almost like instantly shadow banning it and putting a age restriction on it and like making it hard to find. So if you guys haven't seen my last video, go check it out. I did a quick little garden update with a bunch of question and answers on the end of it. So definitely go check that out. But I knew as soon as I showed my plants, they're gonna kind of like restrict it. And that's exactly what happened. So please, if you can, go check out my last video. I'll be putting a link down below in the description and comment section. Go check that out. So it seems like now they let you talk about things growing and whatnot, but they don't want you to show it, or they start restricting it, which is really ridiculous and annoying. But I think what we're gonna do in the future is have some garden videos and just have them like just plain garden videos, and then the other videos will do like question and answers or talking about certain aspects of growing. And always a big thank you to everyone who helps with these videos, smashing the like button, leaving comments, leaving questions. If you can do that on the last one, we tried to hit 1,000 likes on it, but of course they restricted it, so it makes it a lot harder. So let's try to get that one at 1,000, and let's try to get this one at 1,000 likes too. If you guys want to support the channel and you're needing a new grow light in your garden, I can hook you up with optic LED discount codes. You can message me at drautoflowerled@gmail.com or at drautoflower on Instagram. If you need, I can help you out and chat with you and help you choose the best LED light for your situation. So definitely hit me up. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the question and answer video. Chris Nessel says, I have a question. Is it better to feed the plants straight from the water tap or running through a filter that's attached to my sink? I've watered both ways and I can't really tell a difference, but I don't want to filter out any nutrients that I may need. Any thoughts? So I've done that too. I've used like Brita filters just to play around and see. It definitely does take out the ppms to make it lower. It's not like it doesn't completely take them out like what you would get with RO water, but it does a pretty decent job. When I tested it, my tap water is usually around like low to mid 220, 250 parts per million, so a little bit high, but it would drop it down to I believe like 90 parts per million, so it definitely does the trick. But I also too didn't notice much of a difference. Like I think I tried it on one plant, just feeding it like that, and the other ones just regular water. I didn't see a difference at all. I think for people who really want to micromanage everything, or if they're only doing like a couple plants, because it is better to have lower ppms and be giving them all the nutrients they need directly from your nutrients instead of like having some from the tap, because your plants can only handle so many ppms. So it's better to get the ppms from the nutrients they actually need instead of just random ones. And that's also why people use RO water. It's just the cleanest water you can use. All the nutrients going into it is from your nutrients. If I had an RO system, I would definitely use it, but I don't. I have tap water like you, so I really just don't worry about it because I didn't really see a difference at all. So I just give it tap water. They come out fine. Rico Rodriguez says, I've topped autos with success and lots more growth after topping. Sometimes topping resulted in causing the plant to go into flower, and 2 very small colas was the result. Fail. I don't think much skill is required, but more luck on the genetics. If the plant is strong in veg, it just might work, or it might not. Good luck. Some people talk for days about their strategies when pushing a button on the slot machine. This is all just my opinion and thoughts. Thanks everyone. This isn't really a question, but I wanted to feature this because I agree. I think it is a little bit of luck and a little bit of genetics. You really wouldn't want to be doing this with like smaller genetics. I think this is really good for like the bigger kind of autoflowers, especially like more sativa leaning autoflowers. There's some autoflowers that just get like pretty decent size, like 3.5 feet tall I've seen, and those are probably the better ones to be doing it with. I really wouldn't want to be doing it with like short little indicas that don't get that big, because most likely you're gonna have like what he said, 2 small little colas, and it's not gonna be that worthwhile, and it's probably gonna stunt them. But as I always say, experiment, see what works best for you, see what works best with the genetics you're running, and go from there. Another comment I wanted to feature from Trick Daddy says, I go from 75 days at very minimum up to 120 to 130 with my autoflowers. Outdoors usually longer than indoors. I've done a bunch of small pots growing, and these small ones usually finish faster. So I definitely agree about the outdoor thing. I've noticed that too when I tried to grow outdoors. they definitely seem to want to grow longer, probably because anything that like stunts them a little, probably the cold, if it gets a little cold at night, that could probably slow down growth too. But something outside just makes them want to go a little bit slower. I think it's from the uncontrolled environment and the shorter days, because normally you'd want to give your plants 18 hours or 20 hours light. You don't really get that option when you're growing outdoors, so that probably plays into it a bit too. So I got another comment here that I'd like to feature. Big Cheese Dog says he tops around day 15 to 20, and he goes by taking the fifth internode on the plant. But he also mentions an interesting thing on his another comment where he says, no one would want to see my cheesy collection of little grow tents. 2x2s put a limitation on a person. So he's grown into 2x2, and I think this is a perfect time if you're going to be doing some high stress training on autos. When you're doing it in like places like this, is kind of important because you have limited space, especially if you're doing it in like closets or a really tiny grow cabinet or something like that. That's when you can start doing some high stress training, and really it doesn't really matter. Like if you stunt your plant, that's probably for the better, because you don't want your plant overgrowing your space. You probably want it to tame it down and stop the growth. So that is a perfect reason why you would want to do some high stress training, and you would want to stress the autoflower a little bit and try to make it slow down on growth. I've seen that a lot where people try to grow in small little cabinets and their autoflowers just want to keep growing and growing and growing, and the only way to kind of slow them down is just stunt them a little bit. So that's definitely a situation when you would want to stunt your plant and it's beneficial. Same with a 2x2, you only have so much room. You could put 4 plants in there. I've done this too myself, but I super train them as much as possible. You don't want them branching out. You just want them kind of like filling up a 1 foot area each, and that is it. You don't want branches all over the place making a huge jungle in there. So you kind of do want to slow them down a little bit. So high stress training on autos could be definitely beneficial in that situation. Chris Coffey says, when running 20 hours on, 4 hours off, when should you be concerned about humidity getting too high during those off hours? At what point should you buy a dehumidifier or not at all? Thanks. So this is a really good question, because if you're new to growing and you don't really realize, when your lights are off, your plants produce a lot of humidity. And if you had if you didn't have a intake fan sucking that air out, it can get ridiculously high sometimes. I've seen it get up to like 90%, 95% humidity in there. Like when I accidentally turn my outtake fan off and it's not taking the air out, the air would just build up there, the humidity would build up there, and that's not good, especially if you are flowering. Really bad idea, because once you get in those high humidity ranges, that's when you can run into molds and mildews and all that kind of stuff, powdery mildews. You don't want that happening. So to me, it sounds like this guy isn't using an inline fan, carbon filter setup like most people do. Maybe he just has a light in there and that's it, maybe some fans blowing it around. I always recommend have at least a small inline fan, maybe just a 4-inch. It's obviously the cheapest way to go about it. Maybe you don't have to worry about heat too much. Maybe that's why some people don't worry about getting an inline fan. But I think the big worry more when you get into flower is more for the humidity. You really want to get that humidity out of there. So I personally would recommend getting a inline fan before dehumidifier. If your inline fan just isn't helping take that humidity down fully, then yeah, I would invest in a dehumidifier. I got one, I actually got 2 last year because my humidity was just so freaking high. Also last year is when I got all my fish tanks, so that added to the humidity of my place. And plus I was running a lot of plants. So the more plants you run, the higher humidity will be, because your plants are sweating moisture, and every leaf on your plant is giving off a little bit of moisture, and it all adds up. That's also a reason why I keep up with my leaf strips on like my photo periods, because I can just strip them all of the leaves they don't need. And it also really helps decrease the humidity too. That's why I usually do like 3 leaf strips around flower time, and when I do it, the decrease in humidity is very noticeable. Daniel Rodriguez asks, how many hours of light do you give your autoflowers in veg, and how many for flower? Usually when people ask this question, they are very, very new to autoflowers and they haven't done much research. And because the first thing you know about autoflowers is they don't start flowering when you change the light. they start flowering by how many days they're live. So the answer is no, I don't recommend changing the light. You just don't do that. You run it at 18 hours on, 6 hours off, or 20 hours on, 4 hours off, the whole grow. So it's pretty simple to follow. You're not following light schedules or anything like that. You don't need to flip it. They just do their thing. You give them the amount of light they need, you give them the proper environment, and they will do the rest. Here's a good question. I just talked about this earlier today on a live stream. Sam Cooper asks, I watched your feed video. I wasn't sure if I missed this or not, but do you give your autos plain pH water between feedings? So that is a big no. I do not give any waterings of just plain water. I found when you start doing that with the nutrient regimen I use, you can end up into pH fluctuation issues. Maybe it's because you're not matching what the advanced nutrients is giving your plant. I personally just give them feedings all the way up to the flush, and then from then on, then I just give them straight water. I don't even pH it. I just water them straight from the tap and just let them do the thing. If there's pH lockout, then oh well, they don't need nutrients anymore. They can survive on what they have in their systems. But also remember, I've only done this with the advanced nutrients, pH perfect. I've never really done that with other nutrients. With this one, I give less than what's recommended, and I feed every single time, and it comes out really good. So I can't complain. It's a simple method to follow, and the results are pretty awesome. Jeff Curtis asks, I bought some Autoflower seeds. The company I got from was very generous, sent some extras. How do you store unused seeds, and will they go bad? So I've heard of seeds lasting like years and years, like 10 years or more, 15 years, and they still germinate. Maybe they won't germinate as good longer you go. A lot of people say 3-4 years is probably the max you want to go with holding on to them. But pretty much what I do is just keep them in a dark, cool area, cupboard or something like that. That's pretty much all you need to do. I've had seeds where I left them for like 5 years and they still germinated fine. But yeah, I don't store them in like the fridge or the freezer or anything like that. Just a nice dark, cool spot, and you should be good. A Street asks, a quick question on light cycles on autoflowers once they hit flower. Do you, or does it help if you switch lights to 12 and 12? That's a big no. If you switch your autoflowers to 12 and 12, you are going to decrease your yield. You're going to kind of stunt them, and it's just not worth it at all. The only time you'd ever do this is if you had one tent and you're running photoperiods and you're more worried about flowering your photoperiods and your autoflowers are kind of secondary, you don't really care as much. Then that's probably the only time I would say, yeah, fine, go for it, flower your plants, because your autoflowers aren't going to do as good. But if you only have like a couple of them and your photoperiods are more important to you, then I would say go for it. Other than that, no, I would always keep them at 18 hours on, 6 hours off, or 20 hours on, 4 hours off. So that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you all for watching. Make sure if you haven't seen my last video, go check it out. I'll put it in the description and in the comment section. There'll be a link there. Go check it out. YouTube tries to hide it if I show some plants, so super annoying. But I think what I'm going to do is if I show garden videos, I'm going to kind of promote it on the next video, on the talking videos and stuff like that. So if you guys can go there, check it out, be really appreciated. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell if you're wanting to get notifications when my new videos go up. Stay tuned because I got a really awesome grow series coming along. I got all my clones planted here. They're doing pretty good. There's a couple that might not make it, but I have some backups here, so it should be all good. And my autoflowers are going to be started right away. I got my soil in my pots all ready to go. I got them fully saturated. So I'm going with a different way of starting my autoflowers compared to a few other times. Back in the day, I used to do this where I would water my soil in the pots and let it sit there for 5 days. It actually helps activate the ProMix HP, and it also helps fully saturate your pot. So once you put your autoflowers in there, they can grow all the way down. They don't have to worry about you watering each time little by little and then them going down a little bit and then not being able to grow further. They're going to be able to grow the whole way. And I've heard once you let them sit while they're in like smart pots or air pots, it helps the oxygen get into there better. So I've actually never done this technique with auto pots or smart pots, only with old school plastic pots. So I'm interested to see the difference, but that's the way I'm going to be doing it. So I won't even have to water my plants for the next 14 days, 16 days after I plant the autoflowers. Once those 14, 16 days are up, I'll start feeding them and straight to the flower nutrients from Sensi Bloom and following my autoflower feeding schedule. So definitely stay tuned for that, guys. More to come on that. But we're going to end this video here, guys. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, peace out and catch you guys later.